All right. So this is relatively straightforward. I mean, you're pretty familiar with the timeline already since we've all been pretty much involved with this from the very beginning. I mean, essentially we got started back in October with the kickoff meeting. The official notice of award was the end of October. We spent a lot of the upfront time with Giorgio doing a data transfer of all the various data sets that were collected along the way, doing the various master plans, including AECOM's work in 2002 to 2004. Just early in November, we went through and talked about all the various modeling parameters, which then enabled him to just kind of start moving forward with setting up the baseline model. Just recently, we got his task 1 and task 2 deliverable, which kind of like discusses all the results of task 1 and task 2 effort, which is a lot of the data collection and then parameterizing and setting up and then running the model for like base conditions. Moving forward, in February, we have a conceptual system layout, a deliverable. In between that, we're going to have the workshops to council. The triangle is the ad hoc committee review, which is essentially now, and then the council workshop in January, and then in February timeline, somewhere around then, we'll probably do another council workshop to discuss the conceptual system layout, and then ultimately moving forward into April with the implementation strategy and cost estimating and final report end of April. As far as I know, everything seems to be moving along on schedule. At some point, then, you know, there's going to have to be sort of a decision as to what to do beyond that. In terms of the Zone 1 design as we have it now, everything's falling into place such that all the permitting will be done, all the procurement and bidding package will be done. We got the South Florida Water Management District ERP today. Financing is in place, and so then decision will have to be made as to which direction to go. As far as this effort is concerned and the management of the effort.
Let's do this. Let's let GIT do the presentation. And then you
want to do this?
Yeah, let's do
Dan. Okay, that's fine.
I think it makes more sense.
Okay, that's
this
cool.
gives them an opportunity to get in mind of what's going on with the project, and we'll talk about how we
sure
at the end.
Sure. So,
but I do want to add, and as you set that up there, Rowan, I do want to let everyone know, after a whole bunch of wrangling and a whole lot of effort, Colleen pulled off about a $13 million grant, HMGP grant for the Garden District. So we got notified on Friday.
Ooh, where's that from?
HMGP is a FEMA grant.
What?
That's a FEMA grant.
It's a FEMA thing we're expecting?
Yes, but it originally went into $3 million and after
$13 million. But that was the one that was in doubt. We had it, that we didn't.
It was in very much doubt. Yes.
Now it's back.
It's back. Yes. And so we got verbal approval on Friday, and
also to her credit, the Resilient Florida application that we submitted, we're ranked number 11.
Yeah, and they know that. They know that. So obviously that's contingent on the state budget, but good news. So she's been.
So 90% grant, we pay 10%.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
So if we spend less, they give us less.
Yes.
It's up to 13 million.
But it's all based on what our estimated project cost is.
The original estimate was much lower than that.
It was about 3.6 originally.
Originally, you were talking about $7-8 million.
No. Originally it was 3.6. Then it went to 7.8. Then it went up to project cost of 14.9.
Well, then one of the things you added was the generator and everything else. Since they were paying for it, we didn't even want to. The only reason we were doing it, I thought, was because they were paying for it. In other words, when you looked at the thing, we initially.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but yes, we got a grant for $13.2 million, so we're happy with that.
Which means we can spend $15 million, right?
It comes out to 14.9, right?
Sorry, my math isn't
good.
good.
You can only spend 14.9. Okay.
All right, keep going. It's going. Steve, you want
to? Congratulations, anyway.
Yeah. So great work by Colleen.
It was only 14.9.
And the other staff that backed her up, so we appreciate that. So anyway, Giorgio, would you like to come up? So, Rowan pretty much told you what we've gone through over the last month and a half with him, and we've been working hard with GIT and his team from Chen Moore, And so he's here to give a presentation on deliverables 1 and 2.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Steve, and good afternoon, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you in this workshop format. The purpose of today's workshop is to provide you all the technical details and to go through our initial analysis and also the proposed approach and also potential proposed alternative to this stormwater master plan and to actually to the conceptual stormwater system. And as you're aware, the village has a very flat topography. It's very significantly impacted by the tidal influences, and also it has a shallow groundwater. And these our analysis suggested that these factors have to be analyzed together: the surface water drainage, the groundwater, and also the hydraulics have to be analyzed together rather than separately, which would provide a more accurate analysis. And just first with the project status update. And actually I have slides that are nearly 35 slides. And the purpose of this is intended to be in a discussion format. So please feel free to ask me. I would like to not to give you exhausting background details or.
Real quick question. You did this before 10 years ago. Has much changed?
In terms of the hydraulics?
Yeah.
In terms of the hydraulics, I don't know because hydraulic is a very long-term activity of the oceans, and so I don't know if it significantly has changed.
So basically, what has been a significant change is sea level rise significantly in the last 10 years.
I have a slide. I'll show you. I have a slide. I'll show you.
Forget the slide. Just tell me. Significant, not significant?
Not significant.
That's all.
My opinion is not significant. The hydrology has not changed significantly. What I think changes significantly is the performance of the infrastructure, because this has a limited life, and that's what we actually can influence. Hydrology is something that we cannot control. So I will go through the slides fairly fast because some of these slides probably you're more aware than me about. And so if you need some information, please feel free to stop me. And I will go through the main points of what we established, the main findings, and how they influenced our decision. And in between, I'll show some slides that may not be so important. So I will just say one sentence about this. In terms of the how the tasks are, we completed the first two tasks, which was data collection and initial model compiling. We compiled the initial model and provided, we selected design events, we selected calibration events. And it's difficult to talk about calibration because you don't have a time series that you can compare versus. So the calibration is a little bit different here. And we have conducted initial simulations and we have initial results, which we will show here. And we will also show our opinion, and which is preliminary, and we can discuss this opinion, and this opinion is going to be related to many regulatory constraints, permitting feasibilities, constructability. So it is not anything final, it's only preliminary. And I go, here is I think you saw this is our timeline. We're currently in the first deliverables, and after the first tasks, we are ready to proceed with the next task, which is the conceptual network design. The conceptual network design will require, we have developed initial model that includes all of the infrastructure, including catch basin. We have more than 700-800 points within the model that are coupled with the surface water and with the groundwater. When we talk about conceptual pump network design, we initially will come up with some suggestions, and we'll implement them in the model. We'll test how they perform, and then we'll look for optimization. So the conceptual network design will be the most important part of this project, because that will allow us to test different conditions and to see the impacts of these conditions. And then that's really the essence of the entire work. We're ready to proceed with that. In parallel to this, we have been doing also preliminary budget cost estimates. And for the budget cost estimates, I can say that they vary significantly. And I have a separate slide we'll discuss what is the meaning of these variations and how they should be reviewed. And the prior efforts, I listed these as a part of our due diligence data collection.
Excuse me,
analysis.
can you go back to the slide?
Back to the slide.
Like you have your blue, the village is gold. Are you waiting for the village to get done, like when you have right now the flood area, or can you go to conceptual design before they would complete their village review? Or the next thing, when you do your conceptual, you have to wait for them to finish the village review before you're starting again?
There was a discussion about this, and but we have been doing all this in parallel. So I don't know how to formalize this. We have been having a review during the conference calls. We have been having discussion, and we're currently reviewing for the conceptual design. We started with this task, and it's preliminary. So we did not
No,
release.
the only reason I'm saying that, by looking at the golds added to the blue, I see with the first two, they're overlapping. But then I don't see any overlap between 2 and 3 and between 3 and 4. So to me, the village review between 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 is going to hold you up. Is that correct?
It depends on the reviewers. I think if we agree on...
So my next question would be, how can we speed up the review so we don't hold them up?
Well, first, these things are really more horizontal lines than they are vertical lines. So like he said, he just did this to make this simple, but also you can also see we've got the checkpoint in today, which is December 15th. That's kind of a checkpoint to move forward. And then the next checkpoint this is for the ad hoc committee for review on February 2nd. So you can also see that impacts when we kick off, because those are significant decision milestones that allows them to go to the next step. So
I guess the next milestone
is the
big one.
Yeah. So not only is it just the review, it's also an opportunity for the ad hoc committee to get their presentation to also see it as well. But yeah, I mean, if you were to draw this would be more like stripes this way, because we're back and forth constantly with him.
I'm sorry, continue. Yeah. You said to ask questions as you went along. So.
Yes. No, that's a good question. Thank you. We're in the background. We're actually working on the phasing, on the budget, and everything. So we're not going to present it at this point, but we're working on it.
I think what Ed's driving at, we're not holding you up with anything.
As long as you're fine with us reviewing the data, because when you look at such a short-term period, we cannot really. Yeah. It's not realistic to stop review and actually I haven't worked for an agency that does that. So it is I think conceptually the correct thing is that we have the key milestones that we present to the council members, and that's what's the important portion. I wanted to mention that the previous efforts, and they are based on the development of computerization and digitization and everything, like every successive efforts increases the complexity and increases the aspects that needs to be analyzed. That's also in terms of regulatory aspects. Every year, the regulatory aspects become more complex and higher requirements are needed to be met. And the current integrated approach, we took a current integrated approach where we are including, we build upon the previous work, and we reviewed all of the data. We actually reviewed even the first plan, and we took components of these And we are proceeding with a different, a slightly improved approach, I believe, by adding the coastal, but the tidal and the groundwater. And this is a summary of the Stormwater Master Plan procession. We have utilized the data from all the previous studies, and this is the basis of our analysis. It's important to mention, because we're talking about this model, this modeling. We're not simply looking this as another modeling exercise, but we're looking into adding the entire hydrological cycle. And the reason for this is there is multiple reasons for the need to include the entire hydrological cycle. And when I mention entire hydrological cycle, that means the tidal, they have to be included, the groundwater, the evapotranspiration have to be included. Being in a tropical island, evapotranspiration is one of the main components of the water budget, even though it doesn't directly participate in the flooding, but it's essential to maintain the balance in the soils so that's also added. We have
Can I ask you a brief question, if I may? I don't mean to interrupt, but
yes,
when you mentioned the hydrological cycle, one of the things, and I would consider it to be a valuable discussion that's been held in the past in this council, has been the fact that we are going with standardized curves done by the South Florida Water Management District that were set 1960. You know that, right? The 25-year, 10-day,
yeah.
20, and whether that's all well and good, is it reasonable to consider and to continue to consider those statistical hydrological curves, hydrographs, when technically we appear to be getting less rainfall in this area? Does that make sense what I'm saying? One of the things that I remember when we did the first stormwater master plan on the other side of was that we wanted those curves to be reevaluated. And it was kind of like, well, who's on first? Is it the South Florida Water Management District that dictates that? But it's certainly, or is it the municipalities? What is not is something that should be in the hands of, it's not a standardized one size fits all curve. We have to do what Key Biscayne experiences. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, so absolutely. It has to be.
And what we've been shown and truly has been eye-opening is the fact that whether we like it or not, the data is showing a less recurrent rainfall. We get flooded, indeed, but I think that's as a result of the watersheds that are kind of coming down to the bottom of the bathtub. But what we're not getting is those massive hydrographs. Could we get them? Yes. But truth be told, and data be shown, that's not what is being reflected. So I would maybe ask the manager for you to take a look at that in detail and give us a certainty from a data standpoint that those are the rainfall events that we're truly getting. Not the ones that we're getting that we're truly experiencing, the ones that South Florida prepared.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We have, so there are two components of the rainfall. One is the rainfall depth, and that's the recurrence. It says
I'm talking intensity.
20. Yes. This one is based actually on, NOAA has a team that they analyzed and they developed this Atlas 14. And actually this was published in the 60s and then updated. Now we're looking into Atlas 14 version 4.3. And these are team of statisticians and they vary spatially. So we are using that. The other aspect is the distribution, the rainfall distribution. In terms of the rainfall distribution, there are multiple curves. They're appropriate for different geographic areas. Mm-hmm. In South Florida, what's typical is there is a ERP volume, I think 2, that provides the rainfall distribution. The rainfall distribution in South Florida it's given for 24 hours and it's set of 11 points, and they tell you like hour one, you get 0.1%, or it just tells you the probability. So we're using that for discretization. And this is, you're right, this is derived in the 60s, 70s, maybe 90s updated. And we're using that. And one of the reasons is because this is based on for permitting requirements. If you need to permit rainfall events, they will ask for that distribution. FDOT has their own distributions. And so that's something that I think municipality like
Well,
the
that's
village.
why that's why I was addressing it more to the manager, because I think this is something at the municipal agency level that is not being discussed with South Florida Water Management District, because they establish their own curves. They expect everybody to be permitted based on those curves. But guess what? Those curves are creating massive, massive amounts of rainfall for us in Key Biscayne. Not that it's not happening, but is it the true curve that we're applying?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's basically this curve creates about 30% higher intensity.
And that point was brought forth by a former council member, which was eye-opening. And I want this, with all truth, I want this to be a lessons learned. I want this to be productive. If we're going to do something like this, let's do it right. So let's relook at our rainfall events. Let's relook at that. And if our manager is great at, meets with the agencies, let's have a discussion with South Florida Water Management District and say, hey, man, we're not getting 10 inches. Maybe we're getting 3 or 4. Why should we permit for something that
You're
big?
saying basically, if I understand.
Yeah.
That basic curves do not represent reality.
Right.
The reality basically is less rainfall.
They're a one size fits all for South Florida done
talking about
by,
for Key
yeah. Well, I'm not saying that's what's happening with Key Biscayne. I'm saying that the data that was shown was far less. It was eye-opening. It was far less than the general standardized curves that South Florida Water Management District requires for municipalities to get a permit. And DOT has already done the work in establishing their own curves. Why is it that Key Biscayne cannot do that work as well?
Well,
What's we're doing?
who do we have to comply with to get a permit?
With South Florida Water Management District, and that's when you get the big curves with the big rainfall.
So that's what we have to do
That's what we have to do to get a permit
today, unless it's changed.
unless it's changed.
Okay.
But we got the minimum ones. We went to the minimum.
Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons we went from the 10-year to the 5-year is
Yeah, but we're still in the generalized curve.
no, we are, yes. But I think we recognize that as a possible difference. We don't know for a fact. And
Yeah, just to highlight.
that's why we made that adjustment, just to take that in consideration. Right?
Yeah, just to highlight that this is related to the rainfall distribution and actually affects the intensity of the event. And
Right, because it's right now,
Yeah.
we want to permit a system, but we have
difficulties with the high.
dif- difficulties
yeah.
understanding why we're getting lesser rainfall and why we're paying for such an expensive system. So if we have to do it, we have to do it. But
Well, right now, as it stands, we have to do it. Now, I
Right
think
now, as it stands,
there
we
is
have
a
to do
movement.
it.
There is a movement afoot, but movements afoot move slowly to relook a lot of the regulations that we're following.
right, but
and that's a
I'm not saying it's
conversation that we've been playing to coordinate for months with county officials and above, and just haven't been able to do it.
I feel your pain. But I think it's an eye opener for
No.
for
But I think what we can do right now, and I think what we have done, is make the adjustment from the 10 to the 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's because it right now it has to be an accepted, adopted curve, and you know that.
Yes,
we can't go
yes,
off
I do.
making our own rules right now.
No,
but
we
can
can't.
certainly try to change it the best we can.
And then to continue with the next, so we, based on all of these factors, the need to analyze the integrated hydrology, we proposed and we actually developed a couple stormwater network, surface water and groundwater. So this will allow us to analyze the impact of the wells, no impact of the wells, the discharges through so it provides the full spectrum of drainage capabilities. And one of the key recommendations after our review is that a portfolio of solutions should be recommended from green infrastructure, which may not have significant impact on flooding because these are small areas. Basically, for very small events, like very high intensity but very short events, it may work. As you extend to 24-hour event, green infrastructure not sufficient. And the next level would be to apply to consider a distributed injection or pressurized well where appropriate in specific location. And I can show you, I have a slide further that proposes some location for initial testing. We haven't implemented this in the model, but this is based on the review of the data. And to consider also, to keep considering also the outfall for outfall pumping for extreme events. When at this point, when the green infrastructure doesn't work and the pressurized wells do not work, and then it has to be discharged. Additionally, the sea level rise would be evaluated, and this was part of the RFQ. And our recommendation was to use to provide understanding of the flow on the overland, the accurate flow on the overland by using this coupled model for 2D, including the 2D overland flow, as opposed to 1D only. For the level of service, I will skip this. This is directly taken from the RFQ, unless you have any questions about this. In our technical approach, here is these are three models that can be done separately, but they can be coupled. And to provide information about what the meaning of this abbreviation is, Mike Shee is a hydrologic cycle model. This is the full hydrologic cycle model. It's on a grid, and which means that each grid cell receives its own parameters. This includes the groundwater flow, the unsaturated flow, the evapotranspiration, includes the root zone, includes the leaf area index, even though these are insignificant, but they, on a long term, they're very important. The landscaping, I keep emphasizing on this. And also the Mike collection system, Mike Plus, the collection system. This is a 1D network that includes all the piping, the valves, and everything, manholes, catch basins. And then we have the Mike Plus 2D overland. This includes the surface ponding, provides the direction of the flow during flood events, because having the flat topography, you can have a situation where flooding in one area start causing flooding into area that you do not expect. So this is based on
This is topographical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the topography.
But he mentioned the hydrological cycle of Mike Shee you're using for sea level rise too?
For Mike Shee, yes, we're using.
And is sea level rise, are you looking at an exponential rise or are you looking at more of a chaotic type of stochastic rise?
I have a little slide. I'm looking where we looked at the intermediate as per the RFQ, and I'll show you a slide. We just downloaded all of the data from the Virginia key, and we placed it. It looks so far linear, so it's more on going through the low intermediate. But considering that we have very short period of analysis, it's only preliminary. So the full hydrological cycle is needed because the groundwater, that's the superficial aquifer, contains the Biscayne aquifer. We know that it's very pervious. So that's a positive aspect as well. Even for injection, you have less resistance. You can have a higher rates. The tides are important to include because they basically propagate through the groundwater, and the tidal elevation causes groundwater elevation to rise. And so we need, for the design, we needed a model that will provide us with solution to be able to analyze the tidal conditions, the groundwater conditions, the surface conditions, and the network, all these 4 components. And also, I forgot to mention that the Mike Shee model includes also the unsaturated zone. The unsaturated zone is very important because you have the vertical inflow. It's in many models, there is assumption, okay, it's 2 millimeters per hour based on some testing. Based on the properties of the soil, this actually creates a calculation and calculates how much is the infiltration based on the saturation. So it's like a well-known Richards equation. So the integrated components include all these three components. This is the original zoning that was developed by AECOM. Here is the model boundaries in this slide. I show the model. The blue are the model boundaries, and you can see that we went through to the coastal area because this enables us to provide the impact of the tidal. So that was important. We also went to the north, where there is the wetlands, because at some point, if there is a way, some of the flows can be, I know that you probably impossible, but if there is a way a storage can be developed in that area, then we could do analysis of this. And one of the reasons is to develop to include the full island area is because at this flat area, it's impossible to define watersheds. And also to add, we have this model is discretized 500 by 500, actually more than that, 1600 by 1600 cells, which means that we have a discretization on 5 feet, like details. And that's a sufficient level of detail to be able to model the topography on the streets as well, which means that we will have detailed analysis of the flows on the streets. For the data sources, we only use published data sources. Topography, bathymetry, land use is from Miami-Dade County. Land use from Miami-Dade County is a little bit different than the land use from South Florida Water Management District, which is more vegetation-oriented. Land use here is more urbanized to the urbanized category. The tidal is from North Tidal Station. Rainfall, we use an Atlas 14 for the event, but distribution is based on South Florida Water Management distribution. The groundwater modeling, there is no groundwater modeling wells. We have that's something that we are extracting from the model. We can define that. The stormwater network, the as-builts, also data sets, AECOM data sets, and also the most recent KCI survey. It provides a very detailed topography and infrastructure survey, which we entirely used. However, it was deficient in the north to the south. We only received the intermediate side, the medium, which covers entirely zone 1. And we're still expecting, so we will provide additional refinements of the model to the north and the south as we receive them. They promised, we received the latest data from KCI, was received in November, just a couple of weeks ago, and they will be providing for phase 2 additional data. We summarize the rainfall. This is the rainfall, and this is a 24-hour rolling rainfall sum. So that means it's accumulated every 24 hours, and it provides the total inches. You can see that the 24-hour event, that a highest 24-hour event, and we summarize only from 2017 to 2026, but we have the NextRate. This is based on NextRate data, and we have certainly data from but this would be more relevant.
Can you explain that a little bit better? Because that's precisely what I was talking about.
So this one is NextRate provides data each 15 minutes. The rainfall per 4 squares cover. They're 2 by 2 kilometers. They cover the village. So you have a value every 15 minutes how much rainfall occurred over these 15 minutes. So we accumulated for 24 hours. So this really provides the rainfall that occurred over 24 hours, and we plotted it. And the figure below is the rainfall that occurred over 72 hours.
So if you were to, and I'm sorry, I'm just talking a little bit technical here with them. If you were to produce a unit hydrograph based on this data that you see, how, and you put that with the South Water Management District hydrograph, what would that look like from an
How's it compare?
intensity standpoint?
How's it compare, right?
How does it compare, right? Overlap it? You know,
So,
develop a unit hydrograph based on this data and overlap it with the South Florida Water Management District, and then and what would that be? Would it be the same?
no, they would have nothing to do with
When
each other.
exactly?
Yeah,
So, and I
because
think,
that's more randomized. The other one is a design event that's conceptualized based on probability, based on two types of probability. One is probability of recurrence of this event. The other one is probability of distribution. So the probability of distribution, there are multiple probabilities of distribution. So these are kind of overimposed, and then you get the unit. The probability of distribution is the actual unit hydrograph that the district uses. And we would not be able to reproduce this
why not?
because this is completely randomized. The actual event is completely randomized. If you look at the next route, it just complete. The South Florida water and every single distribution is continuous function, which is probability. And the peak occurs at certain amount of time, and it's based on statistical analysis. So, because this provides you
But
the
this is
intent.
hard data. This is hard data.
Well,
This is hard
so
data.
yeah. So and one thing what we usually do is we have a simulation that uses these selected simulations for certain reasons. So we simulated this particular event. We also simulated the 2017 event. I don't know if this should work, right? Oh, it works. So this is the 2022, and there is the 2017 event. This is the Irma, the famous Hurricane Irma. And we simulated this event for a different reason, because we have a tidal that went to 3.75. And we did this, so we have this simulation and that simulation. This is part of our calibration.
Okay, but I guess I'm not, and I apologize, maybe I'm just trying to find a way that I can have a technical discussion at the same time, make it make sense for the folks that are listening, because this is highly technical from the standpoint of what we're talking about. We have a generalized curve that's developed by South Florida Water Management District that is to go to all municipalities, and you are to use that if you want to get a permit to build a stormwater system.
Yeah.
True or false?
This is a unit, as you call it, unit
unit
hydrograph. And
but let me just finish. If you
Yeah.
mind. Then we have a real data unit hydrograph that can be developed, just like they developed theirs, specifically for a coastal environment or Key Biscayne per se, in this coordinates. Is that fair as well?
yeah, that's
And
it.
if we were to overlap one and the other one, you would say that it would be different.
That would be absolutely different, yeah.
By how much?
If you want, we can do this test. For example,
I'm not asking to do a test yet. I just want
Not
to
now.
hear your opinion.
But I can overlap it, because, for example, what we are saying here in this figure is that the rolling totals of approximately 9 this was 9.5 inches total for the 24 hours. And it has variable distribution because it starts, stop, rainfall is not a continuous event. The hydrograph that's developed, the unit hydrograph, is a cumulative probability function that goes to one, that's why it's unit, and it's continuous. It goes up and it goes down.
Yeah, it's parabolic.
So that's why they would not be overlapping. But the point is, what
Yep.
you're making is that the intensity.
That's where I'm going. What I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
that everybody knows hydrograph is a parabolic curve. If you were to develop a hydrograph, peak of the storm,
Yeah.
we know what the South Florida one is because you develop it from the intensity, et cetera. If you were to do the same thing, but for Key Biscayne, would they overlap? Think of two parabolic curves, one from South Florida and one from Key Biscayne.
They would not overlap, for sure.
They would be but it would be scientifically correct. Based
They
on
would be
data.
scientifically correct in the aspect that this event is classified as between almost 25-year event. The total rainfall is classified by no, actually.
By more or less. That's what I'm trying to understand. Maybe I shouldn't have asked the question.
Because there are two aspects. One is the rainfall depth,
Right.
and the other one is the distribution. So if you have rainfall depth of 10 inches, it can occur randomly and accumulate for 24 hours to 10 inches. But it can also occur synthetically, like a smooth curve, which is the South Florida district, and still accumulate to 10 inches.
Okay.
So these are the difference. But within the curve, they will show different intensities. So the intensity is something that would be different. Otherwise, the rainfall depth.
Would it be more or would it be less?
In the South Florida Water Management District, it will be more. It's
In Key Biscayne, it would be less,
most likely.
Based on this.
based on this, yeah.
Most likely, yes. Because in general, the South Florida Water Management District, when they developed the rainfall analysis in the 90s, they haven't developed anything
You
since.
say it's cumulative probability. This is actual events.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously, the cumulative probability, since we have very rare when we have these 10-inch occurrences, there is going to be much, much greater. If I'm not
I'll
mistaken.
put this particular example together because you have a good question, like how these match.
I guess what I'm trying to do, apples to apples. We're about to spend $80 million, $90 million in a drainage system, and we want to make sure that we're designing apples to apples. What rains in Key Biscayne is what we want to design for. We don't want to design for a South Florida Water Management District, even though we have no choice right now because that's the only permit they're going to give us.
Yeah, they will require.
So
And I
nothing
think
we
that's
can do.
important for everybody to know that it's not necessarily us who are doing that. It's the South Florida Water Management District that won't give us a permit unless we design to their massive curve.
Right. Can we keep?
That's it.
Can we keep
And
going?
that's not something right now we can
We can't
control.
really do
So,
much
which
about
is
it.
why
We can't change it.
we brought it from 10 to 5
Yeah.
and we completely
But
understand.
it's costing a lot of money.
Yeah, but-
Well, yes, a lot of things are costing us a lot of money. A lot of projections that,
Right.
nobody knows that are clear, but that's, no, we,
Made my point.
You're 100% correct.
yes.
We agree.
Carry on.
Okay, so that's
That's why we went to the lowest base curve.
so here is our simulation events. As I mentioned, the Hurricane Irma. One of the reasons we're simulating that because it tests how the tidal and the surge, there was a tidal surge of 3.5 affects the island. And why is this important? Because we're talking about like future sea level rise. So here is an example of how Hurricane Irma affects the hydrology with 3.5, which means that if you take a Hurricane Irma as a basis of the impacts, you can really project that this is equivalent to 3.5 feet of sea level. So here is the tidal boundary. This is the sea level based on the data from NOAA. Here is this event from 2017. This is already for the entire available data. So you can see there is an increase. The lower figure, this is my line. I drew it, so I don't have any analysis based on that. I just looked at these dark points. These are the black points, and I drew the line. And these are different projections. As you can see, if you look for now, this is very short period of time. You cannot assume that that's how it is because typically sea level rise changes for thousands and thousands of years, not for a couple of years. But for now, we can say that if there is a sea level rise, it follows linear direction. And it falls more or less under NOAA intermediate low, between no intermediate low and no intermediate.
Which
So
is the one that we adopted, remind
yeah, no intermediate. So I think it's a good choice for now.
Low intermediate
The point is that
versus high, yeah.
The point that the sea level rise has to be monitored continuously, and adaptation is necessary eventually if it increases. I'll continue with this. So the data sources of the hydraulics. So I mentioned there was 3 basic sources. All of them bring different components. The KCI survey from November 2025, so a couple of weeks ago. Miami-Dade County and FDP, they also provide some data, mainly about along Grandin Boulevard, where they it's their responsibility, and the GIS data for village of Key Biscayne, which supplemented these areas and the lower areas, which but you can see the density of the network that was designed by KCI. One thing that's important to note, and in the civil drawing, there were 210 catch basins. According to the survey, appears to be plugged 136. So this is a significant number of plugged, appears to be plugged,
These are currently plugged,
appears to be plugged. That's noted in the survey.
Plug meaning they're not functioning,
not functioning.
or they're functioning less than full capacity.
Yeah, that's the
So this is by the KCI survey?
KCI. Yeah, that's in their drawing.
But Mike, does plug mean 90% plugged, 50% plugged?
Well, yeah, I understand.
I mean, I don't-
No, that speaks for maintenance needs.
But that's
and-
it. That's an interesting data point because Chris, were you aware that this have you seen this or is this recent? Yeah.
Do you agree with this? Do I agree with this?
Not entirely.
How much? Not entirely. Half, quarter, 100%, 90%?
Less than that.
So you think that maybe instead of 136 plugs, maybe we only have 70 plugs or 68 plugs?
What does plug mean? Is
Yeah,
it
that's-
collapsed? Is
yeah,
it
exactly.
tree root?
That's what I'm asking. Does it fully plugged
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
partially thing or whatever?
Is there a dog?
How often do you clean these things?
I'm sorry?
How often do you clean the catch basins?
Catch basins are cleaned every year.
Okay.
So they're cleaned out every year.
How much does it cost to clean the catch basins?
Just the catch basins, I couldn't tell you because it's part of the entire system, but approximately $200,000 a year we spend on
For the catch basins?
on
Or that-
maintenance on the entire system. That means the lines and the catch
All right, so
basins.
how much,
They're cleaned at the same time.
rough guess, is that 50-50?
No. It's not calculated that way.
I know it's not
I would-
calculated.
I
I'm
don't have a
asking
number for you.
What you think is the difference between the two?
In dollar wise,
Yeah, but in 200,000, how much is for,
I don't have a number for you. I'd have to go back and figure out
Okay,
how he
good enough.
priced that out.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anyway, so we have 210, we think 136 are compromised. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but Chris says maybe only half of that, which would be 68.
Are compromised.
Approximately that or less because we clean them on a yearly basis.
We all know the word, excuse me, we all know the word plugged is, yeah, it could be, as Ed said, it could be 80% plugged, 5% plugged,
We'd also have to get a definition on what he means by
what
plug.
he means by
That's
plug.
it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
That's my question.
It's interesting data.
Okay. Carry
Yeah,
on.
this is
And
deeply
who's making this claim here?
KCI. That's deeply
KCI
buried
is-
in there. They have a note for each of these components. So we extracted and some of them are full of water debris, unable to determine. So I guess these are notes that should be taken into.
There's also a caveat that some of these catch basins are not connected to a system and they're older type designs, which were weep hole catch basins. So the weep hole may be compromised.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another aspect is that the FDEP database refers to 210 drainage wells permitted. So out of 210, I think 28 are injection wells. So I think it would be good to have this information, and if we can schedule some visit and see how they perform. And
How many do we have, Chris? Shallow injection wells.
We have 39 shallow injection wells currently.
No, they're not 39 shallow injection wells. Those are 39 gravity
gravity driven.
No, I'm talking about with pumps.
With pumps. With pumps?
Yeah.
There's two on Ocean
I'm
Lane
sorry.
Drive and there's two on
Correct.
Tether.
Pumps,
So it's 4. Okay, thank you.
yes.
So number 4 is correct. That's all I'm asking.
So far, this is what we have in the hydraulic model.
Wait,
Excuse me, we'll go back. So
wait, go back.
how many did we say?
We said
have?
drainage wells.
Drainage wells.
Total drainage wells,
Yeah.
there are 39.
Okay.
4 are injection.
And we have 210 that have been permitted.
These are from the FDEP and they include all of the private, some of them are marked drainage for the pool.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay.
So there is a variety
I
of these.
understand.
This data, wait, it says drainage wells, we're saying 4, but these are actually 4 injection wells. So this,
Yes.
Yeah,
so we're calling them drainage, they're calling it drainage, but they're 4 injection. wells.
drainage gravity or drainage injection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have 4.
two types.
Are there any of them
21.
usable? I mean, okay, so gravity wells, obviously you have to have a natural head to drain and you have to overcome the pressure coming out. Are there any of these salvageable for gravity? I mean, excuse me, pressurized?
They can
If we
be
wanted to
converted. Conversion is possible. I have listed a project here that was recently done in Sunny Isles, conversion of gravity into injection well. So this is something that's being done with a small pump. And that's an example that I will, this was done like very recently. So in
Right.
terms of cost and everything, it's like a good example.
For localized flooding, though, I mean, obviously.
For localized, yes.
Because one thing that people need to know, obviously, and that's important, is that these wells are spread throughout the village. The area that we're focusing on is a specific area where there is, that I don't think there's wells there, but it could help other areas in other locations.
Zone 1 has
pressure
6 wells.
Six out of 34. 6 out of 34.
We got them on the map.
Right, but what I'm asking is more of a generalized village-wide question. Can we, in an effort to help spot flooding in other areas in the village, because we're not going to be doing this all over the place, at least if we got to get through this one first. But in the meantime, can we use some of those wells, pressurize them, and alleviate some of the flooding that is happening upstream or in other locations where, rather than,
Yeah.
These are the injection.
Yeah, I see them,
Right
but
around the school.
it's right around the school, but there's other ones here
Yeah,
and
for
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like my street is a big one, and I know these guys have been doing a great job of at making it better.
They just redid your street.
Yeah, they just redid it.
Did it
So
work
far, I
out?
haven't
Oh, yeah, no, it
been
hasn't-
walking.
hasn't
on
flooded
my
yet.
knees. It hasn't flooded yet.
Yeah, definitely
But that would
conversion
be
is.
an added value, I think, that we could get out of this study if you could take a look at that.
George, I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm looking like the arrow that's shooting to the southeast, you're calling injection wells. It seems like a lot of injection wells that you have throughout the village. Are those injection wells or those gravity wells? I'm looking at the legend that you have there.
Yeah, because it shows around the school
I think
area, it shows-
this legend is not correct.
That's not correct.
Injection well. This is only downloaded from FDP, and I will have to double check on it, even
No,
though
we got to check these numbers because also
because
if you're calling the drainage wells the injection wells, you also don't have one out by East Tether, and you don't have one on Ocean Lane Drive, which is where we have our 2 injection wells.
So that's, because Steve, as you point out, right around the school, it looks like there's 4 or 5 injection wells.
We don't have an injection well there.
Yeah, 10, 15 in the garden district.
That's what kind of called my
But-
attention.
Yeah, I think we got to check these
yeah.
plots
So
out.
That is not
the only
correct.
reason I printed, I added this because these were permitted. If they're there or not there, that's another.
Oh, so these are actually permitted.
These are permitted. This is from FDP permits.
Wow.
I
Interesting.
understand that these wells are not necessarily part of the municipal drainage system.
No, for
These are
sure.
wells on private property.
They could be on private property.
Oh,
Correct.
okay, well, that's a
Yeah.
big
Yeah,
yeah.
difference. We
None
can't
of this
touch
is
that.
connected really to.
Okay, but let me
But
rephrase.
we need to
Okay.
differentiate between the
Let me
two.
re-
That's what we need to
No,
do.
yeah, we don't have clear information. What public wells do we have, and how many out of those public wells are pressurized?
4.
Only 4.
Yeah.
And are which one of those 4s is within the vicinity
None.
of?
Ocean Lane Drive in East
Okay.
Hadley.
Yeah, none of them are.
They're by my place,
Yep.
yeah.
Two at the end
Oh,
of
we
Ocean
flood
Lake
too,
Drive
you know?
and two at the end of East Heather.
We deserve at least one well.
They just redid, I mean, Chris just redid the ones on Ocean Lane.
Yeah. But I think we need to get, this.
So this, we need to find out what's
Yeah.
connected and what's not connected.
Yeah, the only reason I added these number of wells, because I don't know their status at all, is because they have been permitted. And if they have been permitted, that means that there is available information, how they were designed, how they were permitted. Perhaps there is pumping tests, so there is information that we
Absolutely.
could
It's good to know.
collect.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there are that many injection potential wells right there by the school.
Yeah, but they're private.
We don't know.
But this could literally be to.
Well, let's find out. Because
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
an interesting angle to our problem. Solution, yeah.
So to go to the next slide.
Because I have an injection well on my property. It's not on there.
Oh, yeah?
For my pool.
What's this?
So here is a brief simulation to illustrate the groundwater.
Groundwater flow.
Pretty cool.
So the groundwater, it's very much tidal dependent. The movement, it goes out and it goes inside. And so this is the left hand side figure is the view of the equipotential surface from the top, and there is vectors pointing in towards the island and outwards. On the right hand side, this is a transect through the school zone, and you can see how this fluctuates in terms of, there is a separation between the top layer, which is the red line, because it always follow it's a different layer, but these are 4 different layers additionally. The groundwater is discretized by 5 layers, the superficial aquifer. So this is the superficial aquifer. So you can see that actually one interesting thing is that they behave like in a similar way, which means that they have similar hydraulic conductivity. And what's important in this aspect is that if we include groundwater wells, they're going to be affected by the tidal. How are they going to be affected by the tidal? If the tidal goes up, they will, if they're injection wells, they will be less affected, but there will be increased mounding potential, because mounding is one of the permitting criteria for the injection wells. So I think that's an interesting factor in our analysis.
What's tidal?
Giorgio, when you talk about mounding, are you talking about the increase in hydraulic head that's required to push the water down?
For the mounding, this is a special design criterion that when you inject a well, you inject the fluid in the well, the groundwater table can increase around it. So there is a limit of, I believe, of 0.5 feet that you can, once you start injecting into this well, you cannot increase the adjacent groundwater more than 0.5 feet. Otherwise, it would not be permitted. For all these underground injection wells, there is a limit. And also, if you put too many wells next to each other,
Okay, they interconnect.
they will interconnect and they will cause the groundwater to increase more than necessary. So the tidal condition dynamics, I think this is also important to know as and need to be a part of when we are doing analysis of the whether pumping or the wells. It's important to know that this is included in this analysis, all of the tidal condition. Now that's critical for future permitting. If you apply for permitting for this underground injection control, or for FDP, or for South Florida Water Management District, or for Miami-Dade County, that's a critical factor to reflect tidal conditions. Also wanted to mention the groundwater levels, how they fluctuate. The groundwater levels during September, Hurricane Irene, they went, this is a point right next to the school, went all the way. This is a modeling result. It's not a actual measurement. So it went all the way, almost almost up to 1 foot, but the tidal was 3.5 feet. This was the storm surge. And in general, it behaves fairly normal, but it is affected to the tidal. And available injection capacity and overall performance require consideration of the tidal condition. So that's something that we will be able to address. Now, this is the storm event in June 2022. This figure shows even though it's very small, but you can see the rainfall that occurred day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, 5, 6. So there was like a long stretch of 7 days of rainfall, which caused significant flooding. And this one is the illustration of how this flooding developed. You can see the tidal from the outside of the island, tidal impact, and you can see that there is a uniform flooding on all streets. Basically uniform. They are the lowest portion of the land, the streets, so they collect quite a bit of water. Now, this figure also included the direction, the flow directions. I think flow directions are a significant factor in the entire analysis because without flow, so here is the flow direction in detail within the school, within the K1 zone. The flow directions actually provide the flow paths that develop during rainfall. And they can switch to different direction depending on how the street gets flooded. And subsequently, we selected several. We will see several locations where they follow the deepest flooding, the greatest depth, and also in the confluence of multiple flood streams on the street. So that would be appropriate. We call these hotspots where we can apply these wells, like around the school. And this is the area that's mostly flooded. If you look at this, there is interesting pattern. There is
It's like it rolls down the hill.
yeah, flood comes here. And
How do we tell the arrows there? It's kind of hard to figure out.
I have another slide that I'll show you right now. I have another slide that I just highlighted the arrows. This like with the model generated. One thing I wanted also to mention, there was we looked at also the white paper that AECOM, they did not reject wells. They said that that's an option. There is a review of different opportunities of how to be. There is a pump station with force main and shallow injection wells. The paper states that they could be also applied. However, they were suggesting that approximately 50 wells would be needed for zone 1. And we're looking into a possibility to optimize this and reduce. So here are the flow directions, but these are drawn by us. And these yellow, they show the flood paths, where the flood comes from. Now the red line is the zone 1. We positioned and we looked at these patterns, and this is something that we'll be testing in the model. We will apply these, we will provide these, include these wells in these locations. And we said, okay, we will need, let's say we start with 8 wells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. They're positioned at the outskirts of the zone 1, and they're actually placed in the confluence of and they're intercepting the flooding coming from the outside and going towards the school. So that's one potential solution. This well number 5
So
intercepts.
Giorgio, that number 1 and number 8 are on Harbor Drive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So because the reason we place these, because this is low and
That's the lowest points where we have the significant flooding.
And it's a significant flood, and these circles are potential area of influence of the wells. Now, At this point, this is only conceptual, and we will be providing this exactly in the modeling alternatives. We will place the wells, we will apply certain injection rate, and we'll see how that affects the.
So Georgia, let me ask you a question. So you have two arrows going north and south on the page, right? So from 8 to 1 and then from 1 to 8, why wouldn't you have, if I'm reading this correctly, why wouldn't there be one where the two circles meet?
This would be a potential optimization of this. One of the reasons was we consider this a long path that would go, that needs to be, one of the purpose was to reduce the gravity intake length. But I think it's a really good question because this will require certain optimization.
You're following what I'm saying, right? So
yeah. Yes. In the deepest portion, we can just simply have dislocated here.
And then the same thing occurs where number 7 would potentially move to the north. I guess it really doesn't matter.
But perhaps it could be taking, it depends on also how much water is coming in. So it could be taking it away from that as well.
Yeah, I was just kind of trying to understand how the arrows were.
So one of the questions or comments first, then a question, Giorgio. So one of the things that we were considering as we were looking at the other design is, can we move it beyond the current borders of zone 1 and capture water outside of that zone? And if what you have here, the flow diagram is correct, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second, it appears that we could, right? So it sounds like what we're doing is we literally are, zone 1 is the, as Councilmember Vasquez like said, the bottom of the bathtub, right? So that then leads me to the question is, how comfortable, and I know these are just yellow arrows, so it's not as accurate as you probably have in the blue there, but how comfortable are you that you guys have this exactly the flow that impacts this?
We need more work for
that's because these roads go in multiple directions, as you know.
Yeah, and these blue arrows indicate the directions.
Yeah, they're really hard.
They are like very consistent. Actually, if you start from here, if you look from here, it starts from here and go all the way to this location.
Yeah. Maybe we need a bigger map.
And this is also a common sense because if you look at the topography, but then with the model, you can actually, what you can do with the model is we assume these circular areas to be area of influence. Right. And we determined at the peak flood elevation, what is the total volume of water? So we assume that this is you can assume this is a container with a volume of water that's, and these are the well zones. We call them well zones, 1, 2, and all the way. You can see the total volume is in acre feet is 8, varies 8, 9. This is only manual delineation. So we haven't applied any algorithm specific or anything to make it more yet, but we will do that to make it more justified numerically. Well, this is only conceptual explanation of what the purpose of this is. So if we have a total volume of 8, let's say 8 acre feet, and if we want to discharge this, assuming that everything is going to go to the confluence with certain rate, if we want to discharge this within 4 hours pumping, which is the level of service, we will need 15 CFS. And so for each zone we calculated, so this is a little bit different approach. We are working with water that's on the ground, and it's accumulated on the ground, and you need to take it out. Basically, you need to pour it out, and you need to understand if you have 4 hours, which is 4 multiplied by 3,600 seconds, what kind of CFS you need to remove it. And then we also compared here if you need 8 hours of pumping. And this is not yet adjusted because we could adjust this for example, this requires the entire flood to be drawn to 0. We can leave certain amount, let's say 4 inches on the ground, which is possible. So we can have partial drainage of this area. So that would be a concept that we would like to investigate, and we're proposing for investigation. And so this will provide, so for example, which is not very different from what previous studies were, this will require 150 CFS for 4 hours to be removed from the ground of 80 acre feet. Now, this is calculated from the model.
So Georgia, to be clear, a 5-year event, 5-year 24-hour event over the area of zone 1 generates the volume of water that requires a discharge capacity of 144 CFS to clear in 4 hours.
So we here, actually, this analysis was done, we will do it for all events. This analysis was done for this critical event on June. So it was 10 inches.
Okay.
10 inches. But what the discussion is just to show you the concept and how we can look into this in a way that we can optimize the pumping and the locations. And in some cases, you may be able to reduce the overall flows, or to, for example, these are more or less, if you can make a compromise, you can say, okay, we can have our level of service would allow, like first compromise would be, you're not going to drain the whole amount. Here, this assumes all 8.28 acres are drained or removed. You can say we can remove only 5 acres. So that will reduce a little bit, and then we'll determine where you have flooding, how much is the flooding, is it acceptable to have like the 6 inches that were mentioned. So this type of analysis can be conducted, and then you can scale it to the rate, and you can also scale it to the flood duration.
So Georgia, so if I'm to understand this chart correctly, so all the way to the right, you're saying that the entire 8 zone area of zone 1 would be clear
Yes,
in 8 hours.
That's only theoretical, because you cannot withdraw. You cannot assume that we'll be withdrawing 20 CFS. It will have, but the model will show that that any limitations of the flow, the inflow. One thing what we also try to do with this kind of concept is to reduce the flow paths where everything goes by gravity, and only to withdraw everything by where is the confluence of all these flows. So that would be a.
I just want to say one thing. In listening to you, it's been kind of revealing and eye-opening. It's always good to have another cat skin. What I'm seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, in comparing both models, and what you have done today and shown us today, or showing us, and what we have seen from AECOM, is that AECOM's design appears to be more rainfall driven, right? Statistical rainfall driven, whereas yours appears to be more boundary driven by groundwater, by sea level. And what I think that does is that really is there is a philosophical change in the approach, which is not wrong. I mean, we want to do the right thing, but it seems to me like rainfall doesn't really rule as much as groundwater that rises, because groundwater is driven by tidal conditions. And you're showing and you're proving that if we put in, I see this more as a risk analysis type thing at this level. If proven right, we would probably be benefiting more, and I'm following your logic, by putting pump stations in strategic locations where we have the biggest groundwater conditions, because large pipelines for large rainfall events don't, based on what you're saying, I'm going about what you're saying, don't appear to be the controlling factor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense, because once you put a flat, large pipe on the, the conveyance is very low because you don't have the slope. And in this case, we can, it is possible to reduce the long flow path. And yes,
because it's not rainfall driven, is boundary driven. And by being boundary driven,
Correct.
we have areas that are what I call hot zones, areas of higher level of groundwater. And I'm again, rainfall boundary.
Yes,
Right?
that's correct. That's exactly.
So if we adopt the boundary concept, I like it that there's two distinct approaches. But if you have a boundary condition where you're looking at where the risk really is, and you can model that, and you've shown it, you've shown it right here. It's where the pump station goes rather than when the pipe goes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, totally. Yes, I agree that we should really. That's an alternative. That's what you.
I mean, that's what's
Giorgio, we talk about well injection here. Does that also consider the drainage wells and and evaporation, et cetera?
So
Or is
the
it just injection
evaporation.
wells?
Evaporations is considered, is included in the hydrology, because we're in general, like when we talk about stormwater, we talk about two components, hydrology and hydraulics. Hydrology includes the rainfall, all of these hydrological events that we don't have control. Hydraulics include all of the man-made structures. Yes, in
No, the reason I'm asking, because the ACOM model only considered 100% of the water going into the streets and pumping the water out of the streets. You're also taking into consideration basically the soil absorption into the ground, as well as you have the injection wells, but you also have the 39 drainage wells.
Yeah.
In these numbers.
Yes, the ECO model also considered these effects, but they're on a larger scale. This particular model considered this on a very small scale, on a 5 by 5. So that's a conceptually different approach. It's like, imagine you're looking at the picture that's like has very low resolution as opposed to have a picture that has 10 megapixels, for example.
I think what's important to outline here is that neither design is wrong, except except that
Different concepts.
this applies in what I'm seeing, and again, it has to be seen. I
Yeah.
don't. You're showing a very conceptual, very nice kind of boutique approach, but it has to be seen, and we have to determine it. But what I'm seeing here, I am not seeing a rainfall driven issue. I'm seeing a boundary driven issue. That's what you're showing. That's what
Right.
you're showing. You're not showing rainfall. You're not talking. You showed a couple of hydrographs. I asked you the question. You clarified it pretty well, but then you focused on, I like that little groundwater moving thing. That shows clearly that it's the tides that flood us. And it's the tides that make our condition that exacerbate our flooding conditions. Not so much, it's not that the rain doesn't flood us.
Yeah, the rains also.
It seems like the tide conditions are the ones that cause the effect of low capacity. And that's why you get a little bit of rainfall and all of a sudden everything goes down to the bottom of the bathtub. Everything floods because it has nowhere to go. It's a boundary, but again, it's very preliminary, Lucha. And we have to get a better idea. But I mean, what you're showing a boundary driven condition as opposed to a rainfall driven condition. Neither one is bad.
You're absolutely right. This is
But one tries bigger pipelines. The other one just tells you specifically where you put pump stations.
This year has been a perfect example of what he's talking about.
Right.
You know, the only time that we've had flooding, which is 5 days out of the 364 or whatever that we're working on, have been 3 when it was a king tide, and it was during the king tide. And it lasted less than 5 hours. So what he's saying is it's the groundwater that makes things worse. No question about it.
It's
shallow groundwater, yeah.
Shallow groundwater that goes up and down, pressurized by what's called the bubble, you know. But again, I don't want to discard the fact that there is a condition of rainfall that has to be addressed.
It's both.
But neither design is bad, except that this one appears to be showing what the conditions would be under a boundary condition with groundwater being impacted.
Yes, and just to clarify that this includes the full cycle. That means in the rainfall, it's included. In this.
Okay, so
it's not only
But you're using the South Florida Water Management District.
No, I'm using the actual rainfall.
You're using the actual.
Remember, this
You
is
better go
the,
and lobby South
this-
Florida because they're not
this
going
is
to
the
accept
June
it.
22
Yeah.
event. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
very specific.
So this is,
But
this
that's
is,
not, but that's where I go and I say that's not realistic because that's not permittable.
this is this event particular.
No, I'm just saying.
No, the June 22nd one is permittable because that was way above, actually.
Okay.
That was above.
You're taking the worst event in 10 years.
He's taking the worst event.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah, so we have the other simulations. The effects are much less for the 5-year event. So the reason we're showing this here just to, because in general, I agree with you. Like if you start showing synthetic event, it's actually good to see the actual events. And that was very large. And typically what we do in hydrological models, we select the worst event. We replicate the worst event. And then that's one of our benchmarks. So that's our benchmark at this point. For the 5-year event, we have considerably less flooding and considerably less.
Yeah, but this needs to be looked at more.
We are going to provide all of this. At this point, this is just our initial analysis.
Yeah.
We have, so what we call an integrated portfolio for Zone 1, the green infrastructure, no matter how small it is. And actually, as a matter of fact, I wanted to point out here, one of these fields here, it gets flooded significantly. This is the soccer field over here. During these events, it's like significantly flooded. Let me see if I can. Yeah, that's the peak flooding. They're almost flooded, and not only floods, but it starts draining towards the school.
Right.
And that's a potential. For example, this soccer field could be used for a large retention area. You could consider that Coral Gables using their golf course. We have a conceptual drawing of which at this point, perhaps interesting is to know the sizes. These are 10 by 7 feet pump station. This is a small pump station. I believe we're looking at 10 CFS that could be positioned and connected to a rehabilitated drainage well to be converted to injection well. So and this is one of the streets we looked at. This is very preliminary, but what we call the integrated portfolio for Zone 1 would include the green infrastructure, even like for future design, when you have somebody do a site plan, a green infrastructure needs to be included. Green infrastructure means that to provide a local storage, depression, and also everything to be pervious or semi-pervious. Semi-pervious is very important. The next level is pressurized groundwater wells for larger events. Hopefully that will be able to mitigate local flooding. And the final level is pump stations or force mains. That will pump. Actually, these we're conceptualizing the pressurized groundwater wells, the pump station that's pressurizing those, to be connected to SCADA system at some point to be able to switch to the outfall if the pressure is exceeded or any of the regulatory factors.
How many pumps did you say you would have to put in?
That's still a question of optimization. Let's say we can start with these 9 to see nine areas where we can put small pump station and in the model and see if we can remove some of them. So it's a hypothetical. 8, yes.
Yeah, okay.
This is a hypothetical scenario where we are going to be looking at the pump station. We're going to be looking at the flood volumes around, and we'll be doing just a calculation of how they affect. And if they are not needed, we can do it for optimization.
And I guess the sometimes when you move into a user-friendly design, gravity pipes are usually better because they don't create operational costs and risks. Pump stations, unfortunately, do. Power outages, maintenance. So I think it's important, if you're going to come back with something like that, that you give us an idea of what that means to, for
In
our
terms of, yeah, life cycle as well.
life cycle maintenance, all that. Yeah.
Maintenance, yeah.
And also, so looking at, obviously, the 8 different locations that you're always initially suggesting where we might need wells. I don't believe our pipes are designed to move water in that direction. So what would we have to do to create that new system of
Yeah.
piping? Because
Additional.
you're moving water in a different way than is currently moved.
Additional upgrades, yeah.
So you would have to, I mean, obviously use what you can, but right now we don't know that until you do.
Yeah, that will be part of this conceptualization to also to provide capacity, like, and upgrades, because some of these are 15 inches, some of these are 18
Yeah,
inches.
I mean, you're going to have to either standardize it and size it based on your requirements. So this could require a significant change in the underground pipe system.
Yeah, we will highlight that. That's our purpose, to have, when we do the conceptualization, the network will be included in that.
Is there a method of restoring some of these pipes underground, like lining them or making them? So you
So
don't have to do
that's,
an entire rehaul.
You could do this, but you need to get somebody to do because it's possible that that's
For
something
pipe
that's
bursting,
typical.
increased diameter. No,
I mean,
well, I don't know that. I mean,
what we should do is what we haven't done, which is scope them all.
well, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, I was just
All
talking,
pipes over time need.
I was just
maintenance
talking on a
repair.
worst
But the
case
guy that
scenario.
cleans them, I don't believe feels like they need to be replaced.
So Georgia, so the just going back to my question before is and following on with yours, council member, your question. So I mean, obviously we're going to have to adjust because our pipes currently feed a totally different system. And so in order to use the gravity system to feed to these wells, we'd have to adjust them accordingly.
Yeah, they have to be adjusted in some locations. For example, at the location where the well is, it should be at the pump is and the well, they should be next to each other. Then there should be a pipe that leads to the outfall or to another pressurized system.
And again, I know this is just preliminary, but I'm very concerned about this area that we leave open in the middle. And unless that is, in fact, it's going to be a pipe that leads down to, I guess, the pump station number 1. I guess that would be your movement of water, I would guess. Because that looks like it's receiving a significant amount of water from the north and the south.
Yes, I think what we will do first, unless you have any suggestion, we'll start with this as a first set.
Yeah, Giorgio, that makes good sense. Could you go back to the drawing of the pump? Yeah, right there. Just what would be the rough square footage of the block on the right side?
The top right is 10 by 7.
10 by 7.
That's a big box.
Okay. And then the next is
4 by 6, I
4 by
believe.
6. Okay. All right.
And then there is electric panel.
Not even a sheet of plywood.
Yeah.
Georgia, is there backup power to these?
It's not a sheet of plywood.
There is no backup power. So
No. I don't know. Was that right?
we I have it further down. I highlighted items, and maybe what we can do is we can distribute this presentation, and because I have a long list of items that we are.
Just to back up, is this
Georgia, how did you confirm these flow directions?
In this model,
How did you
so that's
confirm-
computed by the model.
Oh, I know.
I'm not worried.
So we just trust the model has the flow directions going correctly, but there's no way to really confirm these flow directions?
I would not doubt this model because, for example, you have a topography that's basically the topography is discretized like 5 feet, and so that includes it's a very detailed and it's a LiDAR topography. So I don't assume that, but if we need to justify these flow directions, I think one of the aspects of justifying flow directions, they would be depending also on the gradient, the slope of the topography, but also on the gradient. And this gradient may reverse depending on the event. If you have street start flooding in that direction and it exceeds the elevation.
The only reason I ask is because everything has to basically flow towards the well. You got to confirm that the well placements are relative to the correct flow direction.
Yeah.
If there's no specific way to confirm the flow direction, then it's like using a model that hasn't been calibrated or validated. You can't just assume that the model is getting the flow direction right. You have to actually confirm it.
Don't we have a LiDAR survey, topo survey showing the elevations of all the streets?
That's not confirmation of flow direction.
Sorry?
That's not confirmation of flow
No,
direction.
but normally the water's going to go downhill. So if we have a survey, we should be able to determine which way the water's flowing.
When it's a very, very flat topography, it's very difficult to confirm.
I understand that, but obviously it's
I'm just saying.
elevation
that
for the water.
If there's a way to confirm the flow directions, that would be
We'll
pretty
look
important
into
because
how.
you place your wells strategically relative to flow directions. That's all.
No, we talked about that.
I'll
You
agree.
haven't gotten into the conveyance system to the wells yet, because you don't have the collectors here.
We have all the collectors.
Where you're collecting the water, taking it to the station.
We are out. Some
You're
of
using
these
the
are,
existing lines for that, right?
yes, the existing lines.
Okay, so you're assuming the existing lines all flow to these 8 locations.
Well, they're based on the survey.
The survey, but the
Yeah.
survey didn't give you the
The
direction
flow
of
of, the flow of the pipes.
No, the flow of the pipes doesn't give me the survey. This is computed by the model based on the gradient. So that's all integrated into the calculation. If you have a higher point, you lower point, like a higher energy line, lower
But I thought,
potential.
I thought we just talked a couple minutes ago that you said you would have to modify the pipe system a little bit based on.
For the proposed wells, we will have to do these modifications.
Okay.
Guys, this is a preliminary design.
No,
We
no,
gotta
no.
look at
It's
all
all
of
concept.
it.
Yeah, we know.
It's all
We-
conceptual. I mean, we
Okay.
don't know what and by the way, you can always use force directions if we decide if the gradient's so low that it's, you can always push it.
Not showing.
Yeah, you can talk. Go ahead.
So, George, just so you know, I mean, as far as, I live in the middle of that section.
In
So-
this section?
Yeah, so right here is the worst flooding, right in front of the school. Okay, so I see that the closest well is all the way out here. I would have always thought, from a logic perspective, that you would want to pick up all the water that's, obviously it's flooding most there because it's lower there, right? So I'm not sure where you're getting your information, but I can tell you what reality is, and reality is that the water flows this way. Or or it's lower there. I'm not sure if it flows there, but it's lower there than in other areas.
So we will have to do a reality check and field checks as well.
Yeah, that
I think I
is
agree with that.
actually seeing what's going on,
Yes.
and frankly, I would think that we would want to.
The original idea was to intercept these flows that go to, the original idea was to intercept these flows, for example, that drain all the way from here and to intercept them over here. So not to allow any of these flows to go down, and the same thing here. And then we'll do a simulation and we'll see how the flood is controlled. If it is not, then we will.
As a non-expert like you are, it would seem to me like we would want to work with the flows as
The
we
minimum.
have them, as opposed to trying to change the flows,
That's the intention.
right? So
We have work to do that. I agree.
yeah,
Well, I agree with that, but I want to say one quick thing. Should we also take into consideration future as we elevate eventually?
Yeah.
With hurricanes and all that, we're going to have to elevate the island and modify some grades, some roadway grades. And though I agree with you, I think some flows may change in the future.
The pipes
We don't
are
have the
going-
crystal ball, but
whether if we raise 1 foot, 2 feet, or 3 feet, the pipes are still underground. And they're
yeah,
still
but
flowing
the
the
sheet
same way.
flow, but the
They're still
sheet
flowing-
flow is different though.
They're still flowing the same way.
The
So,
pipes, yes, but the
I'm
sheet,
just
but
suggesting
capturing, no.
That instead of going against what we have,
Mhm.
or trying to
Invent the wheel.
Yeah,
flow,
no.
that we use the flow the way that we have it right now, and we know the way that the pipes are
Mhm.
are slanted. So I don't know,
Yeah.
it makes more sense to me.
I
Love to
think
see a pump by the school.
Yeah,
You
I think what we ought to do is let Giorgio continue his presentation
Yeah.
and let him kind of lead the direction. And based on the fact that this is a very preliminary study, I mean, in Flucho, as you're well aware, we all agree that we want to go out there and test, verify that the flow is actually going that direction. I mean, but I think we should kind of keep going here and let him continue. If you don't mind.
yes. So yeah, that would be next optimization of these. This is just very
It's the
preliminary,
conceptual idea.
conceptual how this may work. There is operational and regulatory aspects in using wells. So we will be looking into those, including well interferences. Adaptive operations are maybe needed based on the events.
Include life cycle maintenance here too.
Groundwater mounting and monitoring. Yes, life cycle. I have a whole list of items that actually I will provide to you in this presentation. After we can discuss it during now, or it's a really long list of things that needs to be considered. In terms of cost management, what we had a review of the various costs associated with pumping and South Florida Water Management District gives you for a pump station that's less than 250, it costs 68,000 per CFS. That's their general guidance. But the things are not so simple when they go into the urban area because there is a lots of restoration, a lots of other aspects. And in order to provide the costs, we need to finalize proposed location for wells, and also to have the exact configuration, and then a cost can be determined accurately. Because as you can see, these costs vary. Sunny Isle bit I was reviewing recently, it was 1.47 for 11 CFS, 1.47, a lots of restoration around. In
That's per well, Giorgio, is it, or is that's
for 11
CFFs
with
for
two wells,
1.5 million?
with two wells converted from simple gravity drainage wells to injection wells. That means excavated, and so this is with two wells. So we have a variable cost. The Garden District was provided as 14.3 million for, I think, 11 CFS, but 11 CFS, typically these rates are per head. So per head of, per hydraulic head. So this can range to 65 CFS. And also
Does that include construction? I mean, I find it, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time comparing the construction number with the CFS. Because, when you're dealing with
yeah,
an urbanized area, you're going to have additional costs because of utilities and traffic and logistics. and
there
so
is.
forth.
That's why he just showed 68 for 608,000,
Yeah.
and 1.4 for 11 in Sunny Isles.
Sunny Isles probably,
urban
Sunny Isles is probably the closest
Yeah.
thing that we could.
So totally agree, because that's the only way you can determine really the cost is if you actually get to a point that you have the configuration established, the exact location, and
the
then
guideline numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're vary all over the place.
Sure.
So our suggestion was to use the centralized alternative to analyze the centralized as alternative. We're not requesting any decision. This is just for the analysis. There is multiple items we identified that needs to be added, and needs to be included. Optimization analysis, road raising alternatives, county flood criteria requirements. Again, the county flood criteria requires that any new or substantially upgraded property has to be at least 6 feet, parcel has to be elevated 6 feet. They have also another for the road. And integration with landscaping, I think, is a critical aspect that as this stormwater work continues, landscaping is very, very important. Like living in, you remember that initially the drainage was conducted to imported plants from Brazil, with high rate uptake. So they're like the most significant pump taking water from the ground and sending it to the air, like this free on top of everything. So landscape is important. Phasing, we need to work on a phasing. Cost management is, we're proposing to integrate an iterative target value design. What this means is, as you design aspects, you also calculate the costs, and then you iterate, and then you have to review these costs and provide feedback, and then if necessary, design should be changed. I have details about conducting optimization analysis. I have multiple slides here. I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are more details.
I think, okay, I don't know, however you feel, however the committee feels. I kind of get the picture that we are looking at two, like I said before, two different
solutions.
two different, technical philosophies or solutions. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stop or that we have to, we need to continue to move forward. But I think this looks at risk more honed into where the problems are. And again, I agree that the boundary conditions, after seeing this, at least in concept, it feels to me that the boundary conditions are more, drive more the flooding than the rainfall, even in the conditions, on a day-to-day recurring kind of basis. That doesn't mean that we don't need a sturdy pipe system to take the water out. You agree with that?
It completely doesn't eliminate the fact that.
So the question is, and this is more of a question later for council, or how you need to continue to evaluate this further. You need to give us better ideas on where the risk is and how to manage that risk. And we need to try to figure out, what do we do with with what we have already spent and invested on?
Wait, there's no hurry.
No, but I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about driving a train here. I'm just saying, there's opportunities here to do some risk management by pump stations. I'm going with that, Lucho. I'm not saying.
There's no need to keep going on something while you're looking at something.
No, that's.
Wait till everything happens.
But
and
yeah.
then make a decision.
Yeah,
I think we're talking about the same thing.
Guys,
let's
not deviate from this. All right. I mean, for now, we don't really need to argue with each other. I mean,
No, it wasn't an argument.
Okay. I think,
Not arguing, just-
I think we're on the, Steve, you want to inject something?
No, I just wanted to hear Councilmember Vasquez finish up.
Yeah,
No, it
please.
just, what I wanted to say is that I believe that we need a little bit further analysis in what you have. I think we need to understand that better. And then later on, whenever that time arrives, figure out a way how we can, if it makes sense technically. I mean, based on what I'm seeing, I see that it's a boundary condition driven design, and I see the value of that. I think that what we engaged on before, and I speak this humbly, what we engaged before is more in a rainfall driven type of design, which yielded larger pipes. This is not looking at it from that angle. This is looking at it from the angle of the groundwater. How do we manage that? Where are the areas that we can control the flow? Where are those locations? We still have to carry the flow out into the bay, and we have to, and
No.
hopefully.
These are injection wells. You're putting them into the water, into the aquifer.
I need him to answer that.
I think the conversation, Lucho, was at the end of the day, we may have to deviate from the injection wells and go to a forced main system that will actually send water to the outflows. But that's part of the conceptual design that we're still getting to. I mean, I think we're very, very much at the basis of the conversation, and we're not yet fully grasping how it's going to go. And I think that's where we are, Giorgio. Right? We're only at the just the critical step of the beginning of understanding the problem. And it would be great to continue on. Right?
Yes,
That was going to be my question on it.
Yeah.
You and I have had the conversation before that you were going to build adaptability into this, the ability to, as the injection wells maybe not be as effective as you want, the ability to also then push towards the outfalls.
Right.
And also permittability is another aspect that we started looking into. There is a lots of limitations, how much you can inject. So you can possibly inject part of it, and then the rest still has to go to the
It
base.
needs to be decided.
Can I make a suggestion, simple one?
Yeah.
We hired this man to make the conceptual plan to put this together.
Let's keep
Let
going.
him progress and come back like a month or so and show us what he's done.
Yeah,
Trying
absolutely,
to second guess what's going to happen.
for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, but I mean, we did put our previous engineer through second guessing,
Yeah,
and
no,
we ought to do the same.
yeah, we're not,
No, I'm just saying,
we're not
we've done this
second
all now.
yeah, we're
Yes.
not,
Let's go on.
yeah,
No,
we're
no,
not
we
second
should,
guessing.
no, of course, and we're gonna continue to work with him, and he expects us to push back on him because we should push back on
I'm
him.
not saying we should, no, I'm not saying we should
Yes.
question, we shouldn't criticize, we shouldn't suggest.
No, we're not
I'm
criticizing.
saying we've done that, but
I'm
I'm
intrigued
saying,
with this.
I
Yeah.
don't think we should tell them how to do it, that's all.
No,
No, we're not.
That's
The thing is, and one of the things you mentioned, Councilmember Vasquez, is, you're talking about how this is, you're seeing this as a boundary, and I want to be careful that we're just not throwing away. We talked about rain for 4 years, and we just want to make sure we're not just
No,
wishing
we
that away.
talked about, and rightly so, one design is not worse than the other. You can look at it from a rainfall standpoint and see a picture. You can look at it from a boundary perspective and see another picture. I'm not saying that either one is bad, but I'm saying that what I'm seeing here, he's providing a design that looks at where the risk is specific.
right.
The way that I think AECOM was looking at it is like, all the rain that's coming down from the sky based on South Florida Water Management District curves, we got to capture that and we got to discharge it.
Right.
Mhm.
That was, well, okay, I may be oversimplifying it, but that's kind of the way it was looked at, because the proof is in the pudding, it's in the plans. We got large pipes, we got large pump stations and all. This is I wish we could have had a little bit more induced model from the previous designer that showed us how the groundwater was moving. I think that's the reason why you initially brought it up, Councilman. And I see now why. We want to have that model. We want to understand how the groundwater works, because clearly we're in an island. We're bounded. We're bounded by the groundwater, and we're bounded by sea level. So it's just looking at a design from different views. You ever, I don't know, maybe.
It's, Luis, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not really understanding what you're saying about the groundwater, because the groundwater goes up and down, okay? It's not moving this way, or it is under, down
He's
there,
showing it, how
way
it
down
moved.
there. But it's basically moving up and down. What his design does is, instead of sending it out to the bay and destroying our bay, we're sending it down to the aquifer.
It
With-
still ends
with-
up in the
with-
bay.
with strategically placed, shallow injection wells. It's not, when you start talking about boundary and stuff, I'm going like, what, I'm not sure what you're talking about. It's still the same water is coming down. Water is not changing. Same rain is coming down. And we've seen that since our good friend Chris started working here and went full blast on maintenance, our system is working. 97% of the 97% of the time. 97% of the time it's working. And there's a few times when we do flood, and especially around the school, we have to fix that. How do we fix it? By shallow injection wells. It's so logical to the great majority of people. And I'm sorry that we spent $8 million on design of something that maybe we shouldn't have spent. I tried to fight against it from the very beginning.
Luis-
I came up here every single.
Luis, that's not bringing a lot of value to the
That's
conversation.
yesterday's
No, but wait a second.
That's
That's in the
yesterday's
background
news.
of everything that's going on here. The fact that we spent so much money already that now we're thinking, oh my God, we're not going to use that $8 million that we spent on design. You know what's much worse? That we spent $100 million or $80 million, whatever you want to call it, on doing something that is not necessary. That's much worse than the $8 million that we've already spent.
We all agree on that, Luis. Okay, so, but can we continue? Giorgio, is there anything else that you want to add this evening?
I just want to add that by having this type of model, I believe you have, and then we'll verify this as well, you have easier permitting process, because this type of models are used frequently, and they require lots of data to be compiled, but once you do that, permitting will be easier because you'll be able to define influence by the wells. Are they going to be influencing? There's going to be mounding. It's very difficult and people struggle a lot with that. If they don't have and they have to do mod flow or some other
Let me
similar.
answer one simple question. If I remember correctly, the ACOM model talked about for zone 1, a 1 inch per hour pumping was 77 CFS, I think. And I don't know what the 1 inch equates to now because you changed the 24-hour from the, whatever the other, I forgot what it was, 7 inches, whatever the other numbers are. Have you come up with a number, a total number that would have to be disposed of? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Here, but the,
And then you can split.
sorry,
140.
here we have that.
Based
I
on,
saw the 80 at the end there. That was phrased differently. That was for 4-hour removal.
Yeah, so this is the total amount of water that has to be pumped.
but this is based,
It's,
Giorgio, this is based on the worst, on the 2020 storm.
They
Yes,
basically
yes.
talked about how much would be pumped for 1 inch per hour pumping, which was 77 CFS or 70.
right.
I think it was 77.1, and for 2 inches was 155, if I remember correctly, for the ACOM model. But that was the total amount of water that fell under those type of rain events that we're talking about for the level of service that we had before. Based on the level of service that you have here now with this hydrogas, whoever you're using, what is this? How do those numbers compare for the total amount to be pumped versus absorbed? Because they weren't considering any water to go into the ground or into our drainage wells. They were talking about total water. So I'm saying when you subtract the drainage wells and the absorption from the soil, how much water was left?
Yes, that's exactly this number. These numbers, they are calculated in acre feet. Acre feet is,
No, I understand what acre feet is.
so these are calculated for these zones. That's the excess water after it's infiltrated, after it's evapotranspirated, at the peak flood elevation.
So you're saying it's 50, so basically, do I just arithmetically say if it's 4 hours at 15, that means I need 60
Yeah.
CFS?
No, it says that you need 15 CFS to remove this amount of water from this area
Oh, okay, in
for 4 hours. Yeah, that's
Okay.
the level of service. So it's a little bit different,
Okay.
the same,
And that's down to zero.
Zero.
down to zero.
Okay, fine, thanks.
And that's what I mentioned, that we can
No, I understand.
And this is based also on the,
Sorry?
this is based on the 2020 peak storm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a 10-inch
oh, yeah.
storm.
That was the
Can you do me a
10-inch storm.
favor?
Yeah.
I understand.
And we can relax these. So
Gotcha. Got it.
Available for us to take home?
Yeah.
So I'd like to take a package home of this. So I can take a look at it.
So can we do further assessment on this? I would like to understand.
We're done, Mike?
Yeah, I think
I
that
think we're getting ready. to
that
get-
would be also, we're looking also for guidance, what exactly the council, after
You're
seeing
the
this.
professor, not us.
Well, you're the owner, so
Yeah,
it's
but-
not me.
Yeah, I mean,
If we knew what to do, you wouldn't be here, okay?
No, we have a suggested path forward, and that's and the main thing is to introduce these wells, and we conduct all the design events as we like. This is the calibration event, and also the design events are 6.56 inches, and also we will also, because that's what typically is done for these models, we'll do the 10 years event, we'll do 25 years, we'll do the 100 years event, because sometimes when you do for FEMA analysis, they ask for 100 and 500. So we'll do this range, but it's not the primary thing. The primary thing is that we will introduce these wells as initial concept, and we'll provide some information of how this compares with not have the wells, the basic things. And we'll compare this table, we'll provide this table with wells. And then we can have an understanding, and then we will look at the flow directions, and if necessary, we'll move these wells to a more
more
beneficial
strategic
location.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we need to provide to you as far as data, areas where these wells could potentially be put as well?
So my information about the wells, yeah, the wells, the location of the wells, suggested location of the wells, that's something that we can discuss. I will extract and provide a large format map, let's say 36 by 24 standard drawing, where you'll see the lines of these arrows, the flow vectors clearly.
Can they be
And-
put in the right of way like they are on Island Drive? They're in the right of way, right?
No.
And we will,
Ocean Lane Drive?
Ocean
No,
Lane
it's
Drive.
on it's in a circle, right there at the end of the cul-de-sac. And then the other one we have is, on East Heather, which is right on the,
So it
on
could
the
be,
sidewalk.
so could potentially be utilized a some type of traffic calming scenario. So this could be put in a traffic calming.
I think these are too big to put in our roads. I mean, that's something we'd have to figure out because we got to determine the right location.
Pardon me?
We have to figure out the right location.
Yeah,
first.
no,
I mean,
I'm just kind of conceptualizing it, where they could be put.
even 10 by 7 is pretty big. But that also with just the pump itself, it had some, the electrical as well. So that's something we'd have to figure out.
Yeah.
I think we're ahead
I
of
will
ourselves.
provide the drawing with the right of way, with all the roadways, like the edge of road, the right of way, and the location of these vectors, and then you can discuss it, and we'll and also provide the flood mapping. So then this could be clearly, because that might be easier for you to do.
Also, Jordan, as we talked on the other day, we sent this stuff together, update, also include the footprint for backup power. Because all these wells, if the power goes out, none of them are
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, well, that's
So
the issue.
yeah, so you're gonna have that much more reliance on
Yeah.
backup power. Because the wells operate during storms, power goes out during storms.
That's
a
But you gotta
criteria
determine
that's very
How
important
much
to
the
take
backup
into
power is
consideration.
going to be versus how often this has happened. When you look at a 10-year thing and how many events are going to happen, and then determine what the probability of having both at the same time.
And
Then you make
Reality
this.
is, everybody knows that power goes out on Key Biscayne.
But
But when we
Depending on a
underground the
system,
power,
drainage better have power.
when we underground the power, this won't be such a significant problem.
I think the yes,
Yes,
we need to assess
all
where
the
it
above,
fits.
all the above. yeah.
Yes, we need to look at it and make a risk decision as to whether
Yeah.
we're going to back up power or not.
Correct.
But we do have to determine the size and what it's going to be because
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
is-
we have
that's-
here
that's a
in
legitimate
our
decision we have to make.
Right.
next steps. We have operation, reliability, and resiliency. Address operation reliability, including redundancy, power availability, and response during extreme events. I have a whole list of writing here of what needs, like, at the end of the presentation. I did not go
Yeah,
through
well,
this,
that's
but
right. I think you're ahead of ourselves right now with landscape.
yeah, this is something that subsequently we'll need to address, and we'll be addressing it. And we'll provide also a approximate footprint based on other reintegration of drainage wells into injection wells, including the pumps and the pump footprint, the electric panels, all these chambers. Will provide that so that we can look at the right of ways and where these can be placed.
Excellent.
Another last question. In 10 years, you had one event, you had 10 inches of rain, whatever it was. The rest of the time, 6 inches. What's the, again, just ballpark, approximate difference in cost between designing for 6 inches versus 10 inches?
Approximately.
Yeah.
If you have one event of 10 inches, you probably shouldn't even design for this. Like if it's in 10 years, I mean.
That's what you had there. I'm just saying. So do you design for 6 inches, and when you have a 10 inch, you say, well, I'm going to go suffer through it. I mean, that's something. Or do you say, I'll spend the money and do the 10 inches, which will happen once in 10
Okay.
The water management district is telling us 6 inches. Isn't that the highest? Yeah, we'd be designing 6 because that's
I'm
the water
just asking what
management
the difference in
requirement.
cost is. That's all.
So
That's what we're doing.
yeah,
I'm just trying to get a ballpark in my head. Is it a significant difference? Is it because it's, excuse me, because it's 2/3 bigger? Is it 2/3 more the cost, or is it 10 times the cost, or that, or is it?
I mean, he'd have to
Incremental.
calculate that. It's not necessarily linear. It's more
That's
curvature.
what
Yeah,
He'd have to calculate that.
what we will do is Because once you have a model that's developed, it's just a matter of changing
I thought
this.
maybe you had some number top of your head. That was.
And you will do, no, I don't, yeah,
Okay.
exactly, I don't know. But
Forget
when
my
we do
question.
sensitivity analysis, we'll show an outline of the flooding, and so that's a
Forget my question.
Steve?
I've got two things. One, I think the flow is understanding the flow is really important, Giorgio, because we got to make sure that we're placing these things in the right place. But then also, and I know it's extremely preliminary, but I'm concerned that, you know, we're costing something at 14.3 million, and you're coming at 815,000. So I think that magnitude, and I don't want to debate it now because it's not worth it, but that magnitude of difference is pretty high.
Yeah, so 14.3, if you look at this, it refers to peak flows of 65 CFS.
But that's not really correct.
I have a
look,
problem.
I don't
yeah.
want to get into it,
I
Yeah.
have a
Why is
problem
it
with this
not
whole
correct?
thing.
but I don't want to get,
Talk with Colleen.
but I don't want to get into that now, but it's something that we have to look at. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
We have to
I'm
look into
looking
this
at the
thing.
I think
email.
it's far better to get a feel from recent CIPs of,
Yeah.
look at Miami Beach, look at Fort Lauderdale, look at what they built, and let's come up with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go by CFS. That one thing has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah.
My suggestion is, I have a problem with this whole thing. I would just recommend, just talk to the different municipalities. Let's reach out.
Yeah. And all I'm doing is bringing it up
And they
as
can
a
give us
concern, that's
bid
it.
numbers, and they
Agreed.
can give us costs to build, so we know.
I
We
don't,
gotta-
I
we
don't
gotta-
disagree.
Yeah.
So this is wrong. Okay, 65.
No, wait,
Let me
it's
look.
No,
not
it's not
wrong.
wrong.
It's
It's
just,
like-
it's the first shot.
Just don't
It's a
use
different way to compare
CFS.
it.
We're building. It's
No, I
construction.
absolutely agree, because I think if you look at the South Florida water management, the way they cost their pump stations is, but they
You
did
should
with-
have a wealth of data across the bay. I mean,
Yeah.
the beach, Fort Lauderdale, they'll give
Yeah,
you all
yes,
information.
absolutely.
They've been building this stuff. Even Miami right now, it's building.
Maybe the
pipes.
water management districts are 1970 costs too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you
No,
do
but
it.
recent data up to
$68,000.
All right, guys, we really need to
2010,
debate the cost structure for right now, do we,
Yeah.
Steve? Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. I highlighted as a concern. Those,
Yeah,
those
okay,
are my
I
two
agree.
biggest concerns is
Okay.
But
the
it's-
flow water.
All right.
Yeah, but
And
I'd
the
like to add
costs.
that the
Water
costs
flow.
are not just the CFS pump stations, as Fernando said. It's a whole lot of aspects.
Sure.
Everything else that goes with it.
It's a different
Yeah,
animal.
absolutely. The urban cost versus non-urban costs can be different.
And that's why we need to have the configuration in place and location, and then that.
Then we can get some numbers. Yeah, agreed.
Before you stop, can somebody explain how we got from 3.5 million to 7.5 million to 14.3 million on the estimates for the garden district? How did that, you know,
Do we,
I never heard the 3.5.
it was basically the same thing that happened with our stormwater group.
No, I never heard 3.5.
Yeah, the HMGP application was originally put in
At 3.5.
at 3.5 million. It was put in low. It was put in low specifically to get into the pipeline, with the thought that it was gonna have to be adjusted down the road, because they knew that it was low, but they didn't want to erode their chances of actually getting
I got you.
grant.
So
When they made the presentation,
Originally it was
then it
6.8.
was adjusted to reflect reality a little bit more, which gets to about 7 million
Yeah.
or 8 million. And then the construction community that we've been engaged with for this particular project was like, okay, this is actually what we think it's really going to cost, and that's the 14 million.
okay, thank you.
we doubled, yeah.
I think
Which
the
is pretty
pump
standard.
station
We've had
was
seen since-
And that-
alone
and
was
that
8.6.
14 million is for a pump station that is meant to operate at 13 CFS. The pump station itself, each well
But-
is designed for 1,125 gallons per minute, which is about
Per
2.2.
per foot.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But the pump station is alone is 8.5 million.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
The
striking
wells
cost.
themselves are not that expensive. The pump stations are
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, Steve, I think you wanted to do something about the monitor,
Yeah, we want to talk through a recommended project management plan.
Okay.
And, because one of the things that I feel right now is, all this is good, and, Giorgio's great at this stuff, but I don't, yeah, sure. I don't feel that we have the expertise to evaluate the level that
don't
we need
disagree.
to.
Yeah,
So we want to make sure that we have that capability.
okay.
Unless Fernando's going to come work for us, I'm not sure, but we need that capability to be able to evaluate this and scrutinize it just as much as any other project we scrutinize. So if I would get Roland?
Let me just. So as it is generally structured, village staff, led by Chris, would essentially be providing direction on deliverables as Giorgio is creating them, and per the tasks in his scope. Essentially, we're administrative capacity, approving invoices, coordinating the work that Giorgio has to do in and out of the field. A lot of what we originally were leaning on Black and Veatch to do was the sanity check on the modeling itself. Obviously, they would be doing all the communication and progress updates and managing information delivery and storage and where it all lands and make sure that it's all fundamentally located in a unified manner per everything else that we've been doing with the resilience program. Most importantly, it was putting very technical eyeballs on the modeling that was being done, the way we had very technical eyeballs scrutinizing what AECOM was doing. I have a certain understanding, but I'm not a groundwater modeler. I'm not a stormwater design engineer. I understand it. So, I mean, I can decipher what makes sense and what doesn't make sense and ask the right questions. But when it gets into actually scrutinizing the modeling that was done, that's something that is beyond my ability. And so that's really the largest, most important part of what Black and Veatch was going to do for us. The ad hoc committee, you all are meant to ensure that progress is being made and make sure that everything that Giorgio is asked to do is being done, and also provide direction for council workshops. It's relatively straightforward. We do the administrative stuff. Black and Veatch would be driving into the technical details of the modeling, and you guys are overseeing general progress and making recommendations to council as to what should be done next.
I don't disagree. This was what Joe was discussing initially. We're holding these guys to the same caliber requirements we show on AECOM to for both our advantage and for the village. So it's fine.
So what I like to do is, I know, next time we're going to hear the Black and Veatch work order would be January 13th, I believe.
Right.
I'd like to go ahead and use my authority up to 50,000 to bring them on to take a look at this now, so we don't burn time.
I don't have any problems with that.
If the committee is comfortable with that.
I don't have any problem with that.
Isn't that a council decision?
It's committee recommendation.
No, I've got the ability to do up to 50,000.
I'm fine for technical review.
Yeah, no, completely technical review.
No, forget the other three things. I'm talking about the technical, on your list of things here, for the technical review.
Okay.
What you got to do.
That's clear.
Okay.
All
right.
And now obviously we've got to get a quote from that. But my most important thing is, look, we're at a critical point right now.
Let's
They're charging us an hourly basis, so they'll do a technical review and send you a bill.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is, we're at a critical point is where Giorgio's done what he's done. He's done some good work, but we've got to confirm that it's going the direction that we're both comfortable with.
That's
and
fine.
that'll give him the ability to start going further down in the design.
I think you got the will of committee to do that. Steve.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
Nope.
The other thing, if it's possible, and if you guys want it, but I'd like copies with communication when you guys communicate with Giorgio, so we know what's happening on a regular basis.
We agreed
Not
that
waiting
we were going to
meetings.
get.
Just copy us on your
I thought we
your
were
chain.
I thought we were going to get a copy of those weekly communications. It's
Yep.
just-
We owe you, I think we said a bi-weekly report. I think.
Yes. Not bi-monthly, but not bi-weekly.
Every 2 weeks, every fortnight. How's
Yeah.
that?
No, for the-
Not by-month, not bi-weekly.
Steve,
We'll
I'm
pull off
talking
my
about in
bridge.
general. Any kind of communications, anything between you guys, we want a copy of it also, so we know what's happening.
So let me tell you, is that really what the will of the committee wants?
Yeah, I'd like to get a better idea of what is going to be presented, because it kind of, I got to catch up really quickly with what's being said, but it gives me an opportunity to absorb it. So I'm not interested in the day-to-day correspondence, but I'm interested in certainly having a presentation ahead of time.
How difficult is that, our names to the email chain?
I don't need to be in that. I just want My
Mike and mine
position
is
is different.
different, isn't he?
I'm different. I just want to see
I-
the presentation before, as part of the package. That's what I want to see.
I'm not sure Ed, what are you asking for? Just to be
Just add our
copied?
names to the email chain, that everything goes between Giorgio and the village. We know what's happening. That's all.
That gets into.
I'm not sure I need that, but, I'm good with the weekly, twice a month update.
If the
personally.
manager writes a
I
report.
mean, I don't, if Ed, I also don't think if Ed wants it, I don't see why he can't have it. So I mean,
Why can't you just have copies? of
yeah,
all
that's
the
fine.
emails?
It's,
easy. That's-
if Steve, if Ed wants a copy, I don't see why he can't have one. He's entitled to it. It's public record. He can ask for it if he wants.
Division of powers. I just don't think that's, I don't know. I don't want to make a deal that it's not a big deal if
It's-
what do you think?
Guys, just,
To know what's
Senator,
happening.
is it an issue?
I don't think it's an issue.
Well, then if it's not an issue, it's not an issue.
yeah, it's
That's
not-
it.
All right.
I just, okay.
No, it's not illegal, no.
Add my name. That's all.
Okay, then that's it. As long as we don't engage into conversations or.
We're not good. No, we can't. We're not allowed to perform directionary function. That goes through
Clerk
Steve.
should be copied and
It's public record. You can get it if he wants it. Anything else?
that's all, man.
You don't charge me for the public records.
Just a-
Anything else, guys?
I
All
don't know.
right, call for adjournment.
Thank you, Giorgio.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Georgia. Very
much.
enlightening. Thank you.